Hi, welcome back to Windows Server 2012 Training Course Part 13. Topic for today, Active Directory. You can use Active Directory domain services in 2012 to more rapidly and easily deploy domain controller on-premise and the cloud, which help it increase the flexibility when auditing and authorizing access to files and more easily perform admin tasks at scale, locally or remotely, via consistent graphical and scripted management experience. ADDS improvement in 2012 include simplifying the on-premise ADDS deployment, formerly DC Promo, with a new stream domain controller promotion wizard that is integrated with a server manager and built on a Windows PowerShell, providing greater support for the capabilities of public and private cloud through virtualization, safe technology, and rapid deployment of virtual domain controller through cloning, providing consistent graphical and scripted management experience that allow you to perform tasks in AD Admin Center that automatically generate the syntax that is required to enable automation for the task in Windows PowerShell. So, how that will simplify the deployment? ADDS deployment in 2012 integrate all the required steps in deploying domain controller through the graphical interface. It requires only one enterprise level credential, and it can prepare the forest or domain by remotely targeting the appropriate operation master role, one of the FISMO roles we are aware of. The newly deployed process conducts extensive prereq validation tests that minimize the opportunity of error that might have otherwise blocked or slowed the installation. The ADDS installation wizard is built in on Windows PowerShell, integrated with Server Manager, able to target multiple servers and remotely deploy new domain controller. This is the window, how it looks like, and you can see all the way to the end. There's a lower icon or button where you can view scripts, which will show you whatever setup you have chosen through the graphical interface, and that might help around auto deployment. Next, ADDS installation feature. ADPrep.exe integration into AD installation process, which will help to reduce the time required to install ADDS and reduce the chances of error. ADDS installation wizard, which is built on PowerShell and can be run remotely on multiple servers, and which help around reducing the likelihood of admin errors and overall time that's required for installation. Prereq validation in ADDS installation wizard, which help around identifying potential error before the installation began, and you can correct errors before you commit the changes. Configuration pages grouped into a sequence that mirror the requirement of most common promotion option, which related to the fewer wizard pages. And the last, it's around the wizard that export the PowerShell script that contain all the options that were specified during the graphical installation. This is help around automation at later stages. Deployment with the cloning. ADDS in Windows 2012 allow you to deploy replica virtual domain controller by cloning an existing virtual domain controller. You can promote a single virtual domain controller by using domain controller promotion interface in Server Manager, and they rapidly deployed additional virtual domain controller with the same domain through cloning. The process of cloning involves creating a copy of an existing virtual domain controller, authorizing the source domain controller to be cloned in ADDS, and creating a configuration file that contains detailed promotion instruction. For example, name, IP address, DNS, and so on. Or you can leave the configuration file empty, which allows the system to automatically generate the information for you. Cloning reduces the number of steps and time involved by eliminating repetitive deployment tasks and it enables you to fully deploy additional domain controller that are authorized and configured for cloning the AD domain via domain admin. Say virtualization of domain controller. ADDS has been virtualized for several years, but feature present in most hypervisor can invalidate strong assumption made by the AD replica algorithm. Primarily the logical clock that are used by the domain controller to determine relative level of coverage only forward in time. In 2012, a virtual domain controller uses unique identifier that is exposed by the hypervisor. This is called the virtual machine generation ID. The virtual machine generation ID changes whenever the virtual machine experiences an event that affects its position in time. The virtual machine generation ID exposed to the virtual machine address space within its BIOS and made available to the operating system and application through driver in 2012. During boot and before completing any transaction, a virtual domain controller running on 2012 compare the current value of the virtual machine generation ID against the value that is stored in the directory. A mismatch in is interpreted as a rollback event, and the domain controller employs ADDS safeguards that are new in 2012. These safeguards allow the virtual domain controller to coverage with other domain controller, and they prevent the virtual domain controller from creating duplicate security principle. For 2012 domain controller, to gain the extra level of protection, the virtual domain controller must be hosted on a virtual machine generation ID aware hypervisor such as Hyper-V role. Last is around PowerShell script generation. The Windows PowerShell CMD for AD are a set of tools that enable you to manipulate and query ADDS to create scripts that automate common admin tasks. The AD Admin Center uses these CMD to query and modify ADDS according to the action performed within the AD admin GUI. In 2012, the Windows PowerShell history viewer in AD Admin Center allow the admin to view the PowerShell associated with these settings. For example, when you create a new fine grind password policy, the AD Admin Center display the equivalent in PowerShell, and which you can utilize it to automate certain activities. By combining script with a scheduled task, you can enable automation for everyday admin duty that were once completed manually. Because the CMD lit and required syntax are created for you, very little PowerShell experience is required. Also, you can automate it by PowerShell or DSC. This is what I had for you today. Hopefully you have enjoyed watching this video and you learned something useful around AD and the new improvement within 2012 Windows Server. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I shall see you at part